Hello, ladies. It is I, Mr. Essential, coming at you once again. And normally, my little dissertations are humorous, or at least I hope they are, but not tonight, because tonight I'm upset, and I want to weigh in on the murder of Mr. George Floyd. And what I'm going to say is going to infuriate some people, but I don't care whether I infuriate people or not, because there is something that we can do that will eliminate problems like that in the future. And what we need to do is to decertify each and every police officers union throughout the United States. That's right, decertify all of their unions. Why do we need to do this? Because the union protects its own. And the union's grievance process makes it damn near impossible to fire a bad cop. All right. Now think about this. A police officer gets called in for a disciplinary hearing 19 times, like Officer Derek Chauvin did. 19 times. If I got called in for a disciplinary hearing 19 times at my job, I'd be fired after the third one. Verbal warning, written warning, termination. I'd be gone. Officer Tao has gone in for 6. One of them was ongoing at the time of this. Yet the union steps in to protect their own. It's damn near impossible to fire a cop. And then the other thing is once the cop gets past the disciplinary proceeding, what does the cop do? He says, I want to go back on patrol. Why? Because the best money is working patrol. That's where the overtime is. If you run somebody at the end of your shift and it takes 3 hours to process the paperwork, that means you're going to rack up 3 hours of overtime doing the paperwork. Okay? And also, your best chance of getting promoted is working patrol. How many times do people work in personnel or the admin office or archives get promoted to lieutenant or detective? Nuh-uh. But because the union's there and they've got this grievance process, I imagine there are people in the Minneapolis PD that wanted to fire both Chauvin and Tao. But no, they couldn't, because the damn union kept getting in the way. All right? Between the two of them, Chauvin and Tao had 25 complaints. Only 2 of them, 2, resulted in any kind of disciplinary action. 2 for 25 is terrible. I mean, 2 for 25? Are they saying those other 23 times the people were wrong? Or the allegations were unfounded? It's nonsense. And think about this. We should also decertify all the police officers' unions, because right now, at this very minute, the union dues of the honest cops in Minneapolis are being used to pay the legal fees of these murderers, of these murdering skells. Some honest cops in Minneapolis are white, and now they're being lumped in with Chauvin and the rest of them, and people think they're murderers. And some of these honest cops are black, and I wonder how they feel about their union dues being used to pay the legal fees of police officers who murdered a black man. I wonder what's going through their mind. And speaking of the lawyers, what's their hourly rate? My best guess is it's something around $500 an hour. Think about that. $500 an hour. There's 4 of them. That means if they each work just a few minutes every day, that's thousands of dollars of those union dues. And listen to the garbage that they're spewing. This is ridiculous. Earl Gray is the lawyer representing Officer Lane. Officer Lane's 37 years old. Remember that, 37 years old. And Mr. Gray, the lawyer, told the court that Mr. Chauvin was a training officer for new officers. He said the day Mr. Floyd died was Mr. Lane's 4th day on the force. They are required to call him sir, Mr. Gray told the court. He has 20 years of experience, referring to Officer Chauvin. What is my client supposed to do but follow what the training officer said? Is that aiding and abetting a crime? Well, Mr. Gray, the answer in a word is yes. Your client Officer Lane is 37 years old. He's a grown man. He should know better. What the hell? 4 days on the force? Long time. He's been in training. He was a provisional officer before that. He's been around the block. He knows 4 days, 4,000 years, 4 seconds. It doesn't matter. He should know right from wrong. He didn't do a damn thing. He's just as guilty as Officer Chauvin. And then we've got another clown representing one of the other guys. Sorry, I'm ranting, but I'm worked up about this. Tom Plunkett is the lawyer representing Officer Kung. Officer Kung is 26 years old. And he said Mr. Chauvin was his client's main training officer. So what? Through police records show that Mr. Kung had become a police officer in December, and it was only his third shift as a full-fledged officer when Mr. Floyd was killed. Mr. Plunkett said, and he argued that Mr. Kung, who is African American, as if that makes a damn bit of difference, and Mr. Lane, who is white, and again, that makes no difference, tried to stop Mr. Chauvin. At multiple times, Mr. Lane and Mr. Kung directed their attention to the 19-year veteran and said, "You shouldn't do this." Hey, pal, talk is cheap. When Chauvin did not stop, they should have done something. They should have physically intervened. Maybe they needed to draw their weapons. They needed to do something. If they had, they'd be heroes right now. The video would still be viral, but it'd be showing Officer Kung and Officer Lane stopping Officer Chauvin from murdering George Floyd. But instead, they sat there and said, "Oh, sir, maybe, please stop." What nonsense. The idea that they tried to stop him by talking, once he didn't stop the first time, they should have known better. They should have acted. They're just as guilty as he is, no matter what you say, because the truth leaves no choice. And the most horrible part of all of this wasn't even their jurisdiction. Think about this. Mr. Floyd was accused of passing a counterfeit bill. Where on the bill? On any bill does it say, "Guaranteed by the full faith and credit of the great state of Minnesota"? It doesn't. Counterfeiting's a federal crime. This should have been referred to the Secret Service because it's their responsibility to protect the currency, not some damn patrol officer in Minneapolis. It's their job. Had it been referred the right way, what would have happened probably is this. Someone from the Secret Service would have called Mr. Floyd and said, "Mr. Floyd, do you realize you just passed a counterfeit bill at such and such a market? We need you to come into this office and talk about it by this time tomorrow. Bring your attorney. If you don't show up, we're going to send federal marshals to come get you." I'll bet you Mr. Floyd would have showed up. I'll bet you he'd have said, "I don't know where I got the $20 bill from. I'll make restitution." He pays the $20, he walks out, and the feds are investigating a counterfeiting case. Mr. Floyd's alive, and we don't have over a week of riots all across the country. But no, these damn police officers said, "Oh, we have a counterfeiting case. Oh, this will be a feather in a cap. We'll go do this." So we need to decertify these police officers' unions so that we don't have crap like this. So that captains and lieutenants, when they've got a bad apple, like Derek Chauvin with his 19 disciplinary things, can fire them and get them out of there. Or they can put them in the admin pool, let him work his 30 years as an admin and retire. Who cares? As long as he's not on the street killing people. But no, now we have a murder and billions of dollars in damage all across the country because his union fought to keep his job. Now, some of you will say, all those good cops out there, they're going to lose their union benefits. Well, yes, they are. But you know what? There's ways around it. The city knows, especially a city like Minneapolis knows, we need cops. So they're going to pay them right anyway. They're going to offer them the right benefits. They're going to provide them the proper equipment. All those things aren't going to change. What's going to change is this. The police officers' union dues are going to go back to the police officer. And they can probably set up a thing where they pay into an insurance pool. where if they need a lawyer, they can get one. But if they don't need a lawyer at the end of their career when they retire after 20, 25, 30 years, or maybe they only work 5 as a cop and retire, but they never need to use the insurance, they get their premiums back. The insurance company keeps the interest they made. Everybody's happy. All right? So, in conclusion, we've got a system where you put bad apples on the street with a badge and a gun and a really, really cool car with a lot of gizmos in it. And they drive around, and all of a sudden you wind up with situations. And George Floyd isn't the only one. There are lots of people that have been killed by cops, and it needs to stop. And one of the ways to stop it is to decertify the unions, so those people in charge, when they've got a bad apple, when they've got a dirty cop, they can just fire them and get them out the door. Anyway, sorry, I'm just pissed. I shouldn't use the vulgarity I did, and I apologize for that. Anyway, I promise I'll have something more uplifting next time, but I had to get this off my chest. Anyway, as you all know, we've got a coronavirus still going around. Eat healthy, get some exercise, get out in the sun, do what you can to take the stress off your lives. I love all of you, and I want you all to be well, except, of course, for the 4 cops that murdered George Floyd. I want you to rot in hell. Later. Bye. Where's the button? Here it is. Click. Bye.